Okay, guys, thanks again for joining me. Welcome back to another ESPN video, some AFCON reaction. And today we turn our attentions to Group C. Uganda took on Nigeria and Tanzania took on Tunisia. I'm joined by Colin Udoh and Sam Ogunleye. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. Let's get into the game, into the Nigeria game, because it was a changed team. But I think the thing I take away from it, and Colin, I'll start with you, is despite the wholesale changes, I think only Osman and Bassi maybe remained in the team. The performance was still very, very strong. And I think there's a lot to take away from that. What do you think, Colin?
Oh, yeah, certainly. I mean, the coach made 8 changes from the team that started the last game. And that's a whole lot of change. I mean, it's not like Egypt, who changed all 11 players, but this was still a lot of changes by the coach. And, ordinarily you would think with such wholesale changes, a team would struggle just the way Egypt struggled in that last game. But honestly, I think this was one of the best games this team played. They controlled the game. They did everything right. Tunisia, I beg your pardon, Uganda really never had a real chance until that goal that they scored. And I guess what that tells you is how much strength in depth this team has. And I would hate to be in Eric Sekochel's position right now, because you look in at the next game that's coming up, and how do you drop someone like Onyedika, when you look at his performance? How do you drop Chukwueze when you look at his performance? So you've got to wonder, really, because you had, I think the 3 starters were Bassi, Osimhen, and let me see, who else again in midfield? Bruno, exactly. Those are the only 3 that started. So, like, how do you drop Onyedika? Because, I mean, how do you drop Onyedika after his performance today?
Yeah, he played so well. And you know what? Yeah, I think there's a lot to say about a load of people that played today. Like, now what? Now what do you do, Eric?
Exactly.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the game, Sam?
Yeah, obviously, to be fair, nothing out of the ordinary. I expected Nigeria to come away with the win. I think we're really proving that we have, like Colin was saying, we have the depth, especially in attack, which is often quite common with the Nigerian national team anyways. But I think from my perspective, even though it was a good win, I think we have to worry about the back line and the defense. It seems like, even in the previous games, that we just seem to crumble after some time. I think the game against Tunisia, we conceded in the 50th minute, but obviously that's the first game, so we kind of let it go. The boys are still settling into the tournament. But in the last 2 games, we've conceded straight after the 74th minute. Tunisia, we crumbled after the 74th minute, and then today again, we've conceded against Uganda, who subbed on 3 different goalkeepers and had a red card. So I think I'm just a bit worried about the defense. But overall, I think when you look at the team, there isn't too much to worry about. But I think when you go up against some of the bigger teams, we're going to be looking at that defense as a weak point for sure.
Yeah, I think it's a very good point to make, isn't it? Because we were just talking before we started recording. We were saying, as much as we've scored, I think the most goals in the competition at this point, we've also conceded amongst the most as well. What do you think about that, Colin? Is there is that something that, despite a great performance, Eric Shaw needs to be conscious of our defensive displays?
Yes, to be conscious about, yes, to work on, but to be concerned about, not so much. And the reason I say that is you've got to look at the fact that this team is scoring goals. At the last AFCON, we only let in 1 goal at the end of the group stage. Now we've let in 4. Now, what you need to be concerned about would come to how the goals were conceded, and that's a big cause of worry for me. I mean, look at the goal against Tanzania today. It was just people going to sleep and letting a reverse pass in, not tracking the runner. Same thing with the goal for Tanzania. Nobody tracked the runner. He arrived at the back post and scored. Tunisia, you could say the PK, you could give that away, but the header that went in, the free kick that went in, you've got to say that was unacceptable. Again, it went to the far post. So yes, there's cause for concern. There's things that the coach needs to look at and work on. But like I said, we can also take the positives. We're scoring a lot of goals. This is 8 goals that we scored so far. Last tournament, we only scored 3. Also, we always score first before the opposition, so that gives us a bit of a cushion to work with. But let's not be letting up so many goals.
Yeah, that's very true. As much as we are playing well, we do need to kind of figure that out, isn't it? But I want to say though, great goal from you. What a finish, by the way. That was
Great goal.
great finish, to be fair.
Yeah, and what I liked about the goal, I mean, first of all, I did want Uganda to score, but what I wanted Ikpeazu to be the one to score, because what a story it would have been. You know, someone with a Nigerian father playing for Uganda, starting against Nigeria and scoring. That would have been a phenomenal story. I mean, for him, but also for us, you know, because then we could have, you know, got a lot of traffic out of that. But at the same time, I have to be happy for Okello too, because he missed the PK in the last game, which, you know, if he had scored that and with the goal that they got later, it would have been enough for them to go to the next round. And so a lot of the players had to get around him, even the coach. And I think there was one of the other teams that had to write him a note, you know, just kind of like, you know, rallying around him. So I was happy to see him get a goal, and not just any kind of goal, but what a classic goal. The reverse ball on the pass, and then the run, that diagonal run he made, losing his marker, and then just the finishing. So got to be happy for, he's a youngster, a young player who's coming up, and I think Uganda has got a lot of years to be proud of him.
Yeah, no doubt. I think those are the fine margins at tournaments like this, isn't it? One penalty last game could have literally changed the outcome. But yeah, I'm glad he got that goal as well, and what a great finish. In terms of the changes that we made, guys, I think we're talking to the depth of the Nigeria squad at the moment. Players that stood out for me, and I want to put this towards you. I'll put this towards you first, Sam. Moses Simon for me, yeah. Obviously, he comes off the bench a lot and makes an impact. But I think the way he played today, is he a starting player? Is there other players that have made cases to start? Even Chukwueze was really good today. Onyedika was really good. Is there what players stood out for you guys? Sam, I'll start with you on that.
You see, when it comes to the Nigeria attack, yeah, I'm just like, that's when I look at that attack and I'm like, I'm glad I'm not the manager, man, because there's just too many options. I think, you know, Moses Simon has obviously been in the squad for years. I think he's been criticized over the years, but he's also been praised over the years. And I think today he put in a performance, you know, that deserves some praise. I think he played really, really well. But to be fair, I think in terms of players that are really standing out for me at the moment, like I'm very happy with Deli Bashiru at the moment. I don't think he's getting talked about enough. And, you know, considering the fact that you probably wouldn't have considered him a star coming into this tournament, but he's, you know, I believe he started all 3 games, if I'm not mistaken. And he's coming and he's putting a performance for me, and I feel like he deserves a lot more credit. So he's been one of the guys that, you know, that I've been quite impressed with so far.
How about you, Colin? Who
Yeah,
impressed you?
I totally agree. Look, Moses Simon takes a lot of crap from Nigerians, but he's one of our better players, one of our more experienced players, and one of the players, you know, when you go into a game that you really need a player with a cool head who will do everything for you, both offensively and defensively, that's Moses Simon. For a winger, he does everything. He will take players on. Maybe his crosses are not the best, but you know he's going to take players on. He's going to draw people towards him. And out of possession, you definitely know he's going to track back and help win the ball back. That's the one thing you always get out of Moses Simon. And I think he has the second highest caps after Alex Iwobi. Now, for the one that impressed me, I know Rafael Onyedika got the Man of the Match award, but I certainly would have. I don't think I would have been mad if they had given it to Samuel Chukwueze. You know, he frustrates a lot in other games, but today he was just on point. Like offensively, he was taking people on, he was getting passes in, he was unselfish, and then defensively, which is the one thing that, you know, I always scratch my head about, tear my hair out over him is. But today I saw him coming back, tracking back, defending both laterally and, you know, out wide. As for Onyedika, I mean, what else can I say? Everybody been screaming since, play this guy, play this guy, play this guy. Today you play him, he comes on, he does everything defensively, offensively, he goes out there and scores 2 fantastic goals. Like Kurt said, I would hate to be Eric Sekoshel right now, because look, man, you go in there thinking about who you're going to pick for that game against whoever is coming on, and you're going to have a really, really hard time.
Yeah, it's going to be a hard time picking that attacking lineup for sure. All right, guys. Well, moving into like the next phase of the tournament, we were talking just before we started recording again, and we were saying that ironically, despite winning 3 out of 3, and actually, let me say part of that for now. Colin, you remember you said a couple days ago or something, the last time that Nigeria won all 3 of their group games, it didn't end too well.
It never ends well. Like in 20 appearances at AFCON since 1963, Nigeria have only finished maximum points 3 times. Of those 3 times, we've only got to the final once, and that was in 2021, and we lost. So the other times we lost either in the quarterfinal or in 2021. Yeah, 2023. I beg your pardon. When we lost against Tunisia. So it's never a good sign when we win all 3 games. And I think I might have got my dates wrong there, but forgive me. But anyway, in any case, we've never done well after winning all 3 games. So I hope that, like they say in Game of Thrones, let's hope that Eric Sekocha will be the breaker of curses. And now that we've won this, he can go all the way to the final and actually win it. But hey, may the odds be ever in our favor.
Yeah, no doubt for sure. Obviously, if we do go through, there's a chance we'll face Mozambique, Ivory Coast, or Cameroon, one of the 2 of the bigger nations in the tournament for sure. I just want to throw back to obviously November, where during the World Cup qualifiers, where I think the frustration from the team was like the performances weren't as strong. But I feel like now in this AFCON, we've shown that the performances have actually been something that we can really build on. If we go in to face one of those teams, how do you think this will put us in good stead in the round of 16? Sam, what do you think? Do you think we'll have a good chance against one of the Ivory Coast or Cameroon, one of the stronger teams in the competition?
It's funny because when I look at the last tournament, obviously Ivory Coast played Nigeria in the group stage, right? And Nigeria came up with the win, but it wasn't the Ivory Coast team that we then went to go and play on in the final. And I feel like this time round, Ivory Coast have a team that seem to be playing very, very well. They have a lot of momentum. I know they only drew with Cameroon in the previous game, but that was obviously like a massive, massive game. But I think in general, like they've come into the tournament with a little bit more form and momentum than they did in the previous tournament. So I think for Nigeria, I wouldn't say we should worry about a team like Ivory Coast or even Cameroon. Nigeria have a good record against Cameroon, especially in tournaments. But I think in general, Ivory Coast are one of those teams where they're looking strong at the moment, but Nigeria are more than capable to beat them. More than capable. We've come into this tournament, we've scored more goals. I know we've conceded more goals than we did in the last tournament, but I wouldn't be too worried that Ivory Coast haven't done anything that has excited me as much. Cameroon haven't done anything that has been out of the ordinary. If anything, we are strong favorites going into either of those games.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts, Colin? Do you agree?
Oh, most certainly. I think we've got to look at, I think it's because we're Nigerians, so sometimes we tend to sort of underplay our own strengths. And this doesn't take away anything away from the fact that I've said, and I still stand on my 10 toes down, that it's seeing is believing for me with this Nigeria team. I'll believe them after every 90 minutes, not before. But having said that, you look at historical context. Whenever Nigeria goes into a game, it doesn't matter against any team in Africa, we go toe to toe. And you can't say Nigeria goes into a game against Egypt, Cameroon, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, Algeria. We go there as underdogs. We always go there either on equal footing or somewhat, as favorites. So I think that we're the kind of team that when we go into that game, we're going to go in there with confidence, thinking we can win this. The same way as maybe they might come in and think, okay, they can win this. So I'm not really concerned. We're probably not going to face any of those until, say, maybe around the quarterfinals. And I guess the only team that might concern me a little bit might be Senegal because of how balanced that team is. But otherwise, I think that whether it's Cameroon or Cote d'Ivoire, Nigeria can take any of them, and that's if they play on the day they show up. The only team I think right now at this tournament that is odds on favorites playing against Nigeria would be Senegal.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with that. Senegal have got a really good team as well. Let's move on to Tunisia. Tunisia obviously took on Tanzania. Drew 1-1. Looks like they're going to play Mali in the round of 16. What are your thoughts on that, Colin? Because I know we're talking again. Mali are a good team, right? So it's not going to be an easy game for Tunisia.
Oh yeah, you know what? Going into that game, I think that Mali might be the ones to come out of it. Just because I've not been impressed by Tunisia. I mean, they played against Uganda, opening game, got the 1-3-1, but we've seen this Uganda team all 3 games, and they are just not the best. I mean, I've seen Uganda play much better than this, both in qualifying and in a tournament. So it's hard to kind of like rate them based on that game. They were absolutely clobbered against Nigeria. I mean, forget the 2 goals they scored in that comeback, but for 75, 80 minutes of that game, they were nowhere to be found. And then I was watching their game against Tanzania side by side with the Nigeria game, and there was nothing really about this Tunisia team that makes you think, oh, you know, they are really that good. So, but when you look at Mali, the way they've played this tournament, I mean, Mali have just been almost like a class of, they could actually be in a position to contest that top spot with Morocco. They could have easily finished first. So I think Mali are the better team far and away, and Tunisia will be lucky if they don't get like beaten like really black and blue. So I think I'll favor Mali in that tournament, in that game.
Tunisia, they're definitely going to have a tough task against Mali. But before we finish the video, we have to shout out Tanzania. Sam, you brought it to our attention. Take it away, man, because it's actually quite something.
Listen, round of applause for Tanzania, man. They didn't win a single group game and are into the last 16 of AFCON. By the way, they've played 12 games at AFCON overall and have still never won a game in their history. So this is massive for the team, massive for the fans. I remember actually being in Fez after they lost to Nigeria 2-1. Players looked deflated because they put in a shift that game and really went for it, especially after they scored their goal. So to see them actually make it through, I think it's just even sweeter. So listen, who knows how far they'll go? This might be their final game, but I think they're going to make the most of it, man. So congratulations to them.
Yeah, congrats. Congrats to them indeed.
Yeah, definitely. I do agree. And I mean, even though they didn't win a game, them being here is down to their efforts. Because at the end of the day, how did they get here? By getting superior goals scored over Angola. And that was because they scored against Nigeria, which nobody thought they would, because the way they were getting pressed, but they found a way to get that goal. They scored against Uganda. In fact, they could have won that game, but for that last minute header by Iqbal. And then today against Tunisia, they were almost down and out, and then a long speculative ball, and they scored. And so they held their own, held Tunisia, pinned Tunisia back, and they got the goal. So I think the fact that they scored in every game has taken them here. Irrespective of what happens from here on out against Morocco, I think they should be proud of themselves. And let's not forget, they were formerly coached by Nigeria legend Emmanuel Amunike. So we should be rooting for Tanzania as well.
Yeah, Joe, I think they're the dark horses, guys. If Nigeria happen to crash out, we're supporting Tanzania. That's the team we get by. All right, guys. Well, we'll be back later to discuss the Group D happenings. Obviously, there's a load of some real jeopardy in that group, so we'll be there to discuss it. Benin take on Senegal, and Botswana take on Congo. And Senegal and DR Congo on similar points, on the same points, sorry, and Benin on 3 points. So that's going to be a juicy set of fixtures, and we shall be here to discuss it later. So thanks again for joining me, guys, and I'll see you on the next one.